Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ailsa Holloway, and I'm the representative of the Periperi U consortium at this meeting, and in collaboration with my colleagues from Senegal and Algeria and Uganda with me today. It is my pleasure to give you some insights on real innovation in disaster risk reduction, with insights on risk education and learning from Africa, drawing on over 10 years of experience from the Periperi U consortium. For those of you who are not familiar with Periperi U, it stands for Partners Enhancing Resilience for People Exposed to Risks. It is a university consortium in Africa committed to the advancement of higher education in the disaster risk domain. And for those of you who might be intrigued, the little chili is Africa-sized, reflecting that piri-piri is actually a widely used spice in Africa, and this is a hot and spicy topic that we must engage with. So Periperi U was conceptualized in the early 2000s and now represents a mature university architecture for disaster risk capacity building in Africa. It brings a wealth of expertise in disaster risk curricula integration across multiple disciplines. These include economics, public health, engineering, agriculture, urban planning, geography, and others as well. This partnership, which is a transboundary one of African higher education institutions, has incrementally grown and now comprises 12 universities, 185 staff, and operates in 8 different languages. Over the last decade, over 28 disaster risk-related academic programs and modules have been conceptualized, incubated, and implemented in our partner universities. And on the books as we speak, there are more than 1,000 students registered in both undergraduate and postgraduate programs. Now, we recognize that undergraduate and postgraduate formal training is not going to reach all of our practitioners and professionals. So a central component of our work is to do short courses for those in practice. And from 2011 to 2016, that component of our engagement reached over 2,400 people and 87 separate engagements. I must underline that a common thread that is woven across the entire partnership is the commitment to socially responsive disaster risk scholarship, which means that our academic colleagues work with their students in highly vulnerable situations. On the left, for instance, in the West Nile district of Uganda, where there are tens of thousands of refugees from South Sudan, and in parts of Ethiopia, which has been severely drought-prone in recent years. Whoops. So, with Periperi at the center of our collaboration, let me take you through the conceptualization of this initiative. It involves a multiplicity of components: academic programs, practitioner training, integrated research on disaster risk, community outreach, and strategic engagement, and every single one of our partners works in these domains. We recognize that it is the combination of these elements that can advance progress towards the priorities of the Sendai program of action, with our research informing understanding of disaster risk, our teaching and learning programs and practitioner programs as well, strengthening disaster risk governance. And we would argue that one of the strongest elements of resilience building, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, is investment in human resilience and human capital investment. But an interesting dimension of our work is that we just don't see this as static components. We believe that certainly in sub-Saharan Africa, it is incumbent on teaching and learning institutions to drive change towards sustainable development and empowerment. And Periperi U does that by driving across the components in the following way. Through our academic programs, through our practitioner training that reach out into a diversity of fields, through our integrated disaster risk research on the ground, dedicated research and outreach to disadvantaged and highly vulnerable communities, and our commitment to strategic engagement with officials at all levels, from local authorities to our partners at continental and international levels. When you get this machine working, you can invoke system-wide change. System-wide change that affects outcomes in the priorities for action. Now let me give you a quick case study of how this translates into actual practice on the ground, drawing on the experience of Madagascar and the dedicated work of the University of Antananarivo that we call TANA. So this is where TANA is located, in the center of the island. And if we start looking at the components of our action in Madagascar, we will see that over a number of years, there has been significant investment in human capital, with nearly 100 master's students graduating from the University of Antananarivo, and of that, around 94 student theses that have taken place and studied risks in around 50 different municipalities on topics that focus on disaster risk management, risk identification, food insecurity, and many others. That's not enough. Over the same period of time, you're looking at faculty research that has addressed needs in 16 different municipalities. Also focused on locally relevant risks, drought, early warning, governance, urban vulnerability, and short courses also. In fact, 17 short courses that have covered 58 municipalities and reached over 400 people in Madagascar. That's remarkable. It is one university, it is one team, and this is the outcome. One of the questions we often get asked is, so what? You run these academic programs and what happens to your graduates? So let's look at the experience in Madagascar. There are 93 graduates, which maybe in a northern country is nothing, but in a poorly resourced country like Madagascar it is significant. 89 of these are now enrolled and employed, working in government, private sector, international and non-governmental organizations, and others. Around 51% of these are in government. So let's take a quick look at government. And it's instructive because if we look at this carefully, we will see that 9 have been placed in municipal positions, 2 in provincial, and a staggering 29 in national government positions. This represents placements in the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Planning, Ministry of the Environment, the National Institute for Disaster Risk Management, signaling a massive surge in human capital in an under-resourced country. Empirically, let's look at what happens under conditions of stress. In 2004, a tropical cyclone of category 4 swept through Madagascar. Tropical cyclone Gefilo resulted in over 300 deaths, 700,000 people affected, and $250 million in losses. Just a couple of months ago, A repeat Category 4 cyclone swept through the country with 81 deaths and 164 million in direct losses. We cannot speculate as to the reasons for the reduction, but the change in human capital at a strategic level must not be discounted. Let me wrap up with 2 quick observations about what makes Periperi U work. First of all, it's a partnership that is explicitly transboundary and cross-disciplinary. It has taken a deliberately incremental approach. To get where Tana is in Madagascar has taken nearly 10 years. Between 5 and 10 years are necessary of investment in human capital building to reach this point. We have a range of models in curricular design, which involve the disaster risk discourse being embedded within disciplines or across disciplines. And as you've seen, we've drawn on multiply reinforcing interventions. You know, we could do better. There are 4 things that would make a difference. First of all, we need innovative approaches to student funding. The single greatest obstacle to human capital development in sub-Saharan Africa, at least at a strategic level, is the absence of student funding support for them to pursue better education. You'll see prospective interns taking a test in Ethiopia to see whether they can take up positions. This is a crucial dimension, and I'm going to challenge us to rethink the way we consider international technical assistance, which tends at a research level to completely bypass our continent's institutions of higher learning. If we do this, if we start incorporating these dimensions, we would build even more momentum for change. And just as we see here our Ethiopian students traveling to the field, as they say, by foot, we are of the view that the mobilization of higher education can move the Sendai framework forward as well, at pace, but with feet firmly on the ground. Thank you.